IT managers, if there was ever a time in your professional career where you had the opportunity to lead the way and drive real business value from within IT for your company, it's now. And it's by combining all the value of your company's intellectual property stored inside its shared file data with Microsoft 365 AI. Think of all the power of the data stored in your company's shared files that your company has ever created or will ever create. The Word docs, the Excel spreadsheets, the PowerPoint presentations, the PDF files, images, videos, audio files, text files, combined with your company's collaboration data around these files that's inside your emails, Teams chats, and Teams meeting transcription data. Your users will be able to chat with Microsoft 365 AI inside of apps like Outlook, Teams, Word, Excel, OneDrive to generate new draft content, answer business questions, or create summaries from your existing shared company files. Imagine if your users could chat with your company shared files from their computers or smartphones through Microsoft 365 AI and ask it to do these things with your shared file data. Compile the sales data from this Excel file and create a summary report in this Word file. Generate a PowerPoint presentation summarizing the discussions from this Teams chat channel on this date. Extract the action items from this long email thread and list them in a table in a Word file. Create a financial summary PowerPoint slide using the data from this Excel file. Draft an email summarizing the key points from this PowerPoint file and send it to this group. And you knew from a security standpoint that Microsoft 365 AI will only be able to access the data inside the shared files the user has permissions to access and no more. If a user doesn't have permissions to a shared file, Microsoft 365 AI will not use any of that file data in its response to that user. And from a compliance standpoint, you also knew that Microsoft 365 AI will not retain the chat prompt information. Your company's chat prompts are private. Once a user is done with the chat session, the prompts are deleted. Your chat prompts are also valuable intellectual property for the company. The more skilled your users get at creating chat prompts, the higher the quality of the content generated by Microsoft 365 AI. And the user's prompts are not used by Microsoft to train the Microsoft 365 AI engine. And to take it a step further, imagine if you had an assistant that attended all of your Teams meetings, especially the ones you couldn't attend, knew the content of all of your company files that you work on independently or collaboratively, knew all of your contacts, all of your emails, knew all of your Teams chats, and you could ask that assistant a question about any of it, and your assistant could answer you quickly and competently, and even make suggestions and try to predict what you needed while you work. And that assistant never took vacations, never called in sick. And that assistant would only have the permissions to see the data you had access to and would never talk or share your data with anyone. The only person they talk with about your data was you. All of that is what Microsoft 365 CoPilot is. Microsoft 365 CoPilot is a secure, separate, private instance of ChatGPT technology inside Microsoft 365 that can utilize all the power of your company shared files that are being underutilized or unutilized. So your users can use your company shared files to generate new files, find answers to your business questions, and help you make more confident business decisions. Again, using the shared file data, meetings data, and messaging data inside Microsoft 365. A key component of making your Microsoft 365 IT system AI capable is getting your files off your file server and or whatever other cloud file sharing service that they're stored in and into Microsoft 365. Your files on your file server, Ignite, Box, Dropbox, Google Workspace, Amazon, and Slack will be unavailable to be used by Microsoft 365 CoPilot. And what's crazy is most of you have Microsoft 365 licenses and in many cases terabytes of storage available through your existing Microsoft 365 licenses, but you're not using it. So you still have a file server, you still have VPNs, you still have backup and disaster recovery systems for that file server, you still have 5-year hardware refresh cycles, and you may still have other third-party cloud file sharing services creating unsecured shadow copies of your IT that you're also paying for. And the good news is that even with your files in Microsoft 365, you can still use Windows File Explorer to have that map drive look and feel, which I've talked about in many, many videos over the years. So your users can access their files in Teams, OneDrive, or Windows File Explorer. They can work with their files synced offline. They can restore entire files, folders, or versions of files on their own. They don't need a VPN, and everything is encrypted end to end. And everything they do with company data is tracked and logged for accountability, security, and compliance. So with getting files inside of Microsoft 365, we've made our company AI ready for Microsoft 365 CoPilot. And for many of you, your file server is the last IT service on premises, which means we get rid of the VPNs, high-end firewalls, backup disaster recovery systems, and domain controllers. Making your IT system AI capable by getting your shared files into Microsoft 365, in addition to getting rid of your legacy file server, is an opportunity to rethink your file data security because you can now modernize it. For most IT managers I talk with, they inherited a 10 to 20-year-old Windows Server file sharing system with somewhere between 1 to 20 terabytes of shared file data. They're not sure what data is relevant and which isn't, and they're not fully confident in the patchwork of security configurations left by various IT managers over time. Or they're nervous about a third-party cloud file sharing service that was set up on the fly without serious planning. With modern Microsoft 365 file sharing security, we can do a lot better. And here are the levels of security you can work your way up to. Level 1, recreate a similar on-premises file sharing structure and shared file security in Microsoft 365 and give it a modern, secure twist. Create a team inside Microsoft Teams. When you do that, you'll automatically get a general chat channel with a Files tab, which is essentially your shared folder. And you get a security group built into that team inside of Microsoft Teams. And then you can just add or remove users to that team. Install OneDrive on the user's computer, go to the Teams channel Files tab, click Sync, boom, you're done. Your users will now be able to work with these files in Teams and in Windows File Explorer, where they can drag and drop and copy and paste like they're used to. That works fine for a single user, but isn't enough to migrate an entire file server or other third-party cloud file sharing service. And while Microsoft has tools to copy over your shared file data, there is way more to the process than just copying over the data. There is serious change management and user training that needs to take place so you don't piss off your users, have the project go sideways, or worse, get rolled back and ultimately disappoint your boss. To do that, first you need to have a written plan for your list of shared file folders, their security configurations, as they will be inside of Microsoft 365 Teams and OneDrive, and then map your existing shared files to these new locations. You'll then begin a sync copy process to get a copy of that data over to Microsoft 365 Teams and OneDrive. And then at some point, after working out nested security issues, a sync that just stops working, or files that are copied over but don't actually open, and the myriad of other little gotchas that happen with a migration like this, you'll finally be notified of a 100% clean sync. From that point on, the sync system just updates Microsoft 365 as your users continue to work on the old file sharing system. You'll then pick a switchover date from your old file sharing system to Microsoft 365. You'll use Microsoft Intune to remove your users' map drive connections from the old server and establish the new synced connections with OneDrive in a single night. But you don't switch over your users without some change management and training like I mentioned before. You will piss them off and hurt your career if you do that. You manage the change management through some live video training and a micro video training system ahead of the cutover so you can explain what's about to happen, demo to the users how they will work with the shared files inside of Windows File Explorer and in Microsoft Teams. You set expectations and answer questions live, and you set them on a sequence on a training path so they understand what to do with this new modern system. So you're going to update and upgrade the system, but you're also going to upgrade the user's abilities to use the system. They go hand in hand. Once you've done this, you can proceed with the switchover, usually on a Thursday evening, going live Friday morning, because the least worst day for a switchover is Friday morning. They're all terrible, but the least worst is Friday. In this process, you were able to get rid of the file server, VPNs, and other related on-premises IT infrastructure that were bogging down your ability to modernize your company's IT system. Your users' connections from their computers is always connected with no VPN or internal hosting infrastructure needed. Users can restore their own files, folders, or even previous versions of their files on their own. Everything users do again, with the company shared files, is tracked for accountability, security, compliance, and insider threat monitoring. You've also now prepared the way for your company to collaborate with files in Microsoft Teams and use Microsoft 365 CoPilot. But from a security and compliance perspective, you're still creating a secured folder that you drop sensitive documents into that have no security themselves and that still depend on the user to put sensitive files into the right secured folder. And if that sensitive file is not in the secured folder, is accidentally put in the wrong unsecured folder, or emailed to the wrong person, or just stolen, all the contents are available to whoever has it. We can do much better than that with Microsoft 365. That takes us to level 2. Implement Microsoft 365 sensitivity labels, which is the equivalent of applying security groups to a file rather than just to a folder. You can easily configure Microsoft 365 so that every time someone saves a file into Microsoft 365, they're prompted to select the security group the file must be secured with. Easy to implement, easy to train, easy to execute. This is still much better than simple secured folders, but the downside is, like legacy secured folders, it relies on the users to select the security label, just like it relies on the users to select the right shared folder to drop their naked sensitive documents into with a file server. But we've leveled up and modernized our file security, and we have a fighting chance. And that takes us to level 3. Implement Microsoft Purview trainable classifiers. Give Purview examples of your sensitive data and let it develop a model to predict which files are sensitive and to which sensitivity group it should be applied to, and let it suggest to a user which group this should go to, requiring the user to accept its recommendation, which usually will be right, or change it. Now we're truly starting to modernize our file security and compliance. Level 4. Routinely monitor your Microsoft 365 compliance and security scores. Start with a baseline. Say it's at 25, which is terrible, and then build it up to a more respectable 50, and then maybe take it to 70. Build up to a number you feel comfortable with that scores your files without disrupting your users' ability to work. Then simply set up a routine monthly process to review your scores. And if your score is dropping, determine which items Microsoft 365 is suggesting to raise your scores. Then make time in your schedule to implement the changes. Now, as a side note, this is where IT managers get in trouble. Doing routine work like this is boring, and if your score drops, but the system is still working and nobody's complaining, IT managers will likely never get around to addressing the task suggested by Microsoft 365 to bring your score back up. And thus, the slow and steady slide towards a less secure, less compliant, and degrading Microsoft 365 IT system takes place. This is where having a Microsoft AI cloud partner like Xerillion, who has a process to manage Microsoft 365 security and compliance, the experience and the people to work on these items and get them done, comes in. But we'll talk more about that later. Again, when you integrate Microsoft 365 CoPilot into your IT system, making your IT system secure is a very, very, very serious matter. If you're an IT manager who hasn't modernized their IT security skills for an AI world and isn't confident in their shared file security, it becomes very easy for users to send Microsoft 365 CoPilot on a quest to find out what holes are in your IT security, such as scary chat prompts into Microsoft 365 CoPilot like this. Provide a list of all the documents containing the word confidential. Show all emails from this specific person discussing this sensitive topic. List all employees' contact information. Display the financial reports for the last 5 years. Retrieve the password for this specific account or service. Again, it's very easy to just test things out. If nothing comes back, who cares? But if they can find out some juicy, sensitive company information, they're probably not going to let you know. You're going to find out the hard way, a career-damaging way. And that's if insiders get access to the information. What if hackers get into your system? Imagine what they could expose with a improperly configured security inside of Microsoft 365. And if that scares you, don't for a second think you've improved security by doing nothing and leaving your files on your legacy file server. Because on that legacy file server, there is no tracking of who did what when to any of your files. And those file servers are a magnet for cyber criminals. You need to get your files into Microsoft 365 and get on with true IT security modernization. Here are the Microsoft Defense products you need. These are the same cloud security services that Microsoft themselves use in their $2.5 trillion company with over 200,000 global employees. If it's good enough for them, I'm sure it's good enough for me and you. You don't need a patchwork of third-party IT security services. I'm going to list these Microsoft 365 cloud security services verbally, but not go into them as I've done that previously in this video here. But I want to mention them as they are key for your Microsoft 365 CoPilot readiness, and we implement these all the time in our Microsoft 365 modern work practice at Cerulean. Here they are: Microsoft Entra ID Security Management, Microsoft Entra ID Conditional Access Policies, Microsoft Intune Configuration Policies, Microsoft Intune Compliance Policies, Microsoft Intune Autopilot, Windows Hello for Business, Microsoft Defender for Office 365 Safe Attachments, Microsoft Defender for Office 365 Safe Links, Microsoft Defender Network Protection, Microsoft Intune Mobile App Management, Microsoft Intune Auto Patch, Microsoft Insider Risk Management, and Microsoft Purview. And before you tell me, oh, we've got most of that installed, look, I hear that, I would say, probably 30 to 40% of the time from IT managers. And generally, when we dig into it, and we're not harsh about it, but when we dig into it, here's what we have that installed usually means. I configured it, but I'm not completely confident of my configuration or that it's really working right. Or I configured it for a few people and we're testing it out. I hear this all the time. Here's the thing. Internal IT managers work on the single IT system, and they're usually stretched very thin. Their company never has a training plan or budget, and their boss is usually not in IT. Their boss is usually the head numbers guy, the CFO. So what they learn is on the fly by themselves through ad hoc Google searches. They don't get the experience to do these integrations over and over. They don't have enough experience, project engineers working side by side with them, so they can't get the confidence that they need with these new modern Microsoft 365 cloud security systems to make sure they're configured properly. It's impossible. I was an internal IT manager once. I know the pain. And Microsoft 365 XDR security platform is extensive and deep. Even in our cloud practice, it took us a good 3 years of training, certifying, and doing these integration projects over and over and over to get the real experience to implement these systems confidently. This is why IT managers need a Microsoft AI cloud partner, and it doesn't have to be Cerulean, but you need one. And also coming soon, specifically for IT managers, is Microsoft Security CoPilot. We've been talking this whole time about Microsoft 365 CoPilot. Now we're talking about Microsoft Security CoPilot, which will allow you to use natural language chat with Microsoft 365 security services like Microsoft Entra ID, Microsoft Intune, Microsoft Defender Suite, and have Microsoft Security CoPilot synthesize all the data from all these services and then analyze the results to create summaries or allow you to dig deeper into results or create charts from the reams and reams of ungodly amounts of log data that come off a cloud security system in Microsoft 365. You could ask Microsoft Security CoPilot to do things like identify potential threats in the log files from this date, summarize the security incidents reported in this time period, provide guidance on responding to this specific type of cyber attack, and investigate the suspicious activity reported on this date, generate a report on the security posture for the company in the last quarter. Just think about how you as the IT manager can chat with Microsoft 365 AI using Microsoft Security CoPilot to have it surface any issues, create summary reports on current security status, or dig deeper into security concerns. Now we got to address the matter of Microsoft 365 licensing. There are only certain licenses of Microsoft 365 that Microsoft 365 CoPilot can be added to. And here are the ones we use with our clients: Microsoft 365 Business Premium or Microsoft 365 E5. Microsoft 365 Business Premium is the best value license limited to 300 users, while Microsoft 365 E5 is the most secure and capable, but is more than twice the cost of Microsoft 365 Business Premium. Microsoft 365 E5 is what we use at Cerulean and Microsoft themselves use. Microsoft 365 Business Standard and Microsoft 365 E3 also work, but we don't use them in our Microsoft Cloud practice at Cerulean as they don't create a complete solution for security and management. So in practical terms, you will need Microsoft 365 Business Premium or Microsoft 365 E5 to be able to add a license of Microsoft 365 CoPilot. IT managers, getting your IT system AI ready from Microsoft 365 CoPilot by getting your company shared files migrated to Microsoft 365 and secured with Microsoft Defender XDR suite so it's AI ready for Microsoft Security Copilot is your opportunity of a lifetime. It's fascinating IT work. But it all starts with getting your company shared files into Microsoft 365, getting your Microsoft 365 security properly configured. And for that, you'll need a Microsoft AI cloud partner, which is where Cerulean comes in because Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Azure is all we do. If you're interested to learn more about us and getting your shared files into Microsoft 365 to modernize your security and prepare your company for Microsoft 365 AI and Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can go to our website at Cerulean.com, check us out, and if you're interested to talk with us, fill out our contact form. You can email us at support@Cerulean.com, or you can call us 847-995-9800. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.